Hi, everyone. Today we have Cailin with us. She's the co-founder of See Through Series. And we're very excited to learn from her experience and learn from what are the growth and sales strategy for her company.
Thank you, Amy. So happy to be here. Happy to be able to share some of the things I've learned over the course of the 20 years that I've been doing what I've been doing in marketing. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Great. Yeah, so first, I think maybe you can tell us more about yourself, your previous experience, and what inspired you to co-found See Through Series.
Great. Okay, a little bit about me. I have lived and worked in San Francisco in the Bay Area for the past 20 years. And I think being in the Bay is an incredible gift from a career standpoint because you're just at the cradle of so much innovation and disruption and so many interesting things and companies. And so I've really been lucky to be able to work with and for brands that have been truly innovative in their space. As a marketer, it's kind of a dream. And just a little bit more about my experience. So my career can be broken up into three parts. The first about 10 years of my career, I worked at creative agencies here in San Francisco. And in that role, I was predominantly doing creative strategy, brand strategy, helping to launch integrated marketing and advertising campaigns for brands, predominantly in the tech sector, but of all different sub-industries and sizes. And I always tell people who are starting off their career in marketing that starting off in agencies is a great place to start because it really just gives you so much exposure to so many different types of businesses and challenges and problems that you need to solve with your clients. And from there, I then made a big pivot. I really wanted to have the experience of moving in-house and really sinking my teeth into a brand and a product that I could really believe in. So I spent the next almost 9 years of my career working at Google at various roles in that company. And I'd say most notably in that part of my career, I was one of the first marketing hires post-acquisition for Waze, which is Google's other navigation app. And I was brought on as the global B2B marketing lead to head up their monetization and partnership strategy in partnership with the CEO and CRO. So it was a net new role. And it was really just such an amazing opportunity to get in at a company that was still quite small. There was about, let's say, less than 200 people that worked at Waze when I started, and figure out how to grow it and scale it into a bigger revenue generating part of Google. And I really, really loved that. And then I worked in other various roles at Google after that and the Google Ads team. So figuring out how to drive growth via Google Ads solutions and marketing solutions for startups and SMBs. So oftentimes Google is associated with being an ads platform that only works well with big brands. So one of my roles was I was the America's lead to help position and package Google's offerings on that front for smaller stage companies, inclusive of startups, making sure that they would work for them as well. And I'd say after a couple of years of that, it was, again, I'm super grateful for my experience at Google, but I started to get a little disenchanted with being in big tech. I really missed the days where I was working at Waze and really rolling up my sleeves and scaling a company really fast. And so I decided, in partnership with my co-founder, who's a very dear friend of mine as well, to launch See Through Series, which is the go-to-market as a service partner that really works with early stage founders and startups to help build and scale their revenue engines through aligned sales and marketing. And so my expertise is on the marketing side. My co-founder, Tiffany Hicks, has deep expertise on growing and scaling revenue engines at several different types of startups. She was the first revenue hire at a healthcare fintech and brought it from zero to millions, hundreds of millions. We basically, what we figured out as we launched through series is that there was a true gap in the market when it comes to service providers, especially for these early stage startups where there's plenty of marketing agencies out there that you can hire. There's plenty of sales consultants and fractional CROs that you can hire, but very few companies offer this really integrated and aligned sales and marketing offering. And we found that when you do that and you have those two motions in lockstep, it just provides exponentially better results, and it's so much more efficient from a capital perspective. So that's why we started See Through Series, and I've found so much purpose in working with startups and helping them sort of solve those initial go-to-market challenges. I know, Amy, we were talking about this earlier, but a lot of founders, they really have a passion for the product that they're building and the innovation that they're trying to drive, and they don't necessarily know how to do go-to-market. And so we love to come in and be that support for founders as they're trying to scale.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really love what you guys are building, and really love, the value that you are bringing into the startup ecosystem. It's definitely what the founders need. So I think my next question will be, I know that you co-created the Lean GTM for Founders framework. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Yes, the Lean Go-to-Market for Founders framework is born out of a lot of experience on the first couple of years of See Through Series existence and working with founders. So in that time we were solving a lot of different and wide array of challenges, right? And what we found that, especially with the very, very, very early on startups, is there's a real need to build a solid foundation from a go-to-market standpoint that often gets overlooked as founders are focused on developing their product, fundraising, like all of these different things. And then once they get to a certain point and they reach a certain milestone, then all of a sudden they have money to actually invest in marketing and sales. But what they don't have is a really a strong foundation or a baseline in order to do that successfully. So what we truly try to encourage with the Lean Go-to-Market for Founders framework is it's something that we can do and we have done in partnership with founders, but it's also something that founders can go ahead and execute on their own. And I have some resources I'm happy to share about that. But essentially, there's 5 steps to it. They're in a very specific order, and they're meant to be a simple way to get to a point where you have a strong understanding of what your go-to-market should be as you start to scale. So the first step is market research, and this is probably not a big surprise. It's super important. I think we all inherently know that, but felt really important to establish that before you can start investing in anything, you've got to do your homework, right? So what market research looks like is it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go in and, hire an expensive research firm or, do something really, really robust and proprietary by any means. But what it means is that you need to be spending a ton of time listening to the market. You need to be talking to your early users or your early customers as much as you can, as much time as you have time for as a founder. And you can also do sort of low resource things like conduct your own market surveys. You can do very 15, 20-minute chats with folks that could be potentially your ICP, which I'll get to next. But you've got to have an ongoing motion of continuing to gather market feedback and paying attention to what's happening in the industry overall in order to be successful. So, we know that what things look like in a lot of industries a year ago do not look the same today. So having a pulse on what's happening in your industry is super, super important, both from your own product and your customer's perspective, but also from a competitive perspective. So that's another really important thing to have at this phase, is have a mechanism for understanding what your competitors are doing and how they're capturing demand, right? So first is doing your market research and really thinking about that in the lenses, where are the gaps and where are the opportunities that I can lean into based on the things that I'm hearing in the market and the things that I'm reading in the market. The second step is all about defining your ICP, or ideal customer profile.
Yeah.
This is one of the most important steps that you can be doing early on as a founder. And we see this all the time when we start working with founders, even founders who are in a later stage or growth stage. Is one of the first questions we ask is, what is your ICP, right? And oftentimes what we see is that the ICP is either very loose, there's way too many ICPs, it's very vague, it's not super
Yeah.
defined, right? So it's overly broad. And so like that is a big challenge, because you can't really do anything before you have a really tightly defined understanding of who your ideal customer profile is. And oftentimes this means making hard trade-offs. So even if you have a product that could work for 5 or 6 different industries, or different types of customers, or different, sizes of businesses, it doesn't, you want to start off in the very beginning, especially before you have a lot of traction, and picking one, sticking with that one, being really detailed in how you're defining it. And then ideally that initial ICP is going to be a segment of your broader customer universe that is going to be ripe for early adoption. They're willing to try things. They're willing, or they have such a big need for what you're offering, that they're going to start adopting it right away. So we do a lot in terms of messaging and workshops and all of that around ICP definition with our clients. But we also have resources that we can share where founders can go in and actually take like our worksheets and frameworks and fill them out for themselves if they prefer to do that. So ICP definition is the second step. The third step segues very, very nicely, which is developing really compelling positioning and messaging. So once you have your ICP defined, the next step is to really articulate in a very unique and compelling way why your solution is the best one out there, right? And so the most basic way we think about this in the beginning is you basically have a Venn diagram where you have on one side, you have a list of all of the things that your very well defined ICP cares about, right? Like think about from an attitudinal perspective. This isn't demographics or firmographics or anything like that. From an attitudinal perspective, what are they caring about? What's keeping them up at night? What's stopping them from their next promotion? What challenges and pain points are they experiencing, right? So you kind of capture that on the left side, and then on the right side you capture what are the very unique things that your startup or company is offering in the market that's different from your competitors. So you have your value on one side, you have what your customer cares about on the other side. And then what you do is you bring that together, you look for commonalities and things that you can pull in to actually have a really tight value proposition from there. And once you've got your ICP, your messaging, the next thing to do is to start experimenting. And that's the really fun part. That's the part Tiff and I love to do the most, is like, okay, we've got this initial hypothesis on what's going to work and who we're going to go after and what we're going to say to them. Let's actually start to test it in market. And so what we call this lean experimentation, because what we recommend is actually picking low to no cost channels to start and only doing one at a time, right? So it's going to get overwhelming and confusing and noisy otherwise. So you may want to say, okay, now I'm going to start testing this from an outbound prospecting standpoint. I'm going to see if these messages are resonating with my ICP, or I'm going to start a social strategy and see if it resonates with my ICP. And then once you get a handle on like an initial, you start to see traction, you start to see that your customers are engaging with this messaging, then you can start to slowly add on and build into more channels and more strategies over time. So do one thing at a time, experiment, A/B test, see what works, and then continue to move on and expand your marketing strategy from there. And then the final thing as part of the framework is leveraging AI, right? So it would not be a go-to-market session in 2025 if we didn't talk about AI. And I really think that there's so much happening in the AI space when it comes to go-to-market. I'm a little bit obsessed with it. Like I'm constantly reading and testing different tools and different strategies and different products that are out there that are meant to to help me do my job more efficiently. And I would say, like, I don't recommend any founder taking taking that on as much as Tiff and I do, because this is our whole business. But you want to start to integrate AI powered tools to help you streamline your go to market motion. And the best way to think about this is, what you want to do is you want to look at your customer journey or your like sales motion, and then start to think through, okay, like, what pieces of this are taking a long time? What pieces are super repetitive? Where are we seeing gaps and insights, right? And how do we bring that together with the help of AI, right? And it's not a replacement for anything that you're doing from a strategic standpoint, but there's a lot that you can do to augment the strategy that you're driving with a very small team with AI.
Thank you. It's very thorough. I feel like I'm like getting a free Coursera course
Sorry, was that too
today.
long?
No, yeah,
I don't have
it's
to be that
amazing.
detailed.
No, I love it. I feel like this is probably something that only founders paid you will hear. So I'm glad that you are willing to share like all the the framework and in details with us. That's amazing. Yeah, and since you mentioned AI, would you like share with us like if there are like top three like AI tool or platform
Yeah.
that you would like to recommend to the founders? What would you recommend?
Yeah. So there's a couple things. I mean, as a catch-all, we still use ChatGPT a lot for specific
Yeah.
things because we have a specific instance of it that just knows so much about our business that like we can use it to validate it. And I actually use it a lot to like present an idea and have ChatGPT poke holes in it. That's something that I've been doing a lot more recently. It's like, okay, here's my strategy. Here's what I want to do. What's wrong with it? And so, like, from a strategic standpoint, ChatGPT is great if it really like understands your business. But from a specific AI tooling perspective, and we use this in our own business as well. We leverage Clay, which is
Yeah.
like a lead sourcing and enrichment database.
Enrichment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Um, because and we use this with our clients as well. I mean, it's an incredibly powerful tool. There is a bit of a steep learning curve on it, so it took us a couple months to get there. And when I say us, I mean Tiff and our new operations lead more than myself. But it is incredibly powerful, and it really, what it does is it unlocks a way to do hyper personalization when you're doing outbound messaging and also social selling at scale, where you can really get a full picture of what the profile is of the person you're reaching out to. And so we really like that tool, and we really like the power that the engine behind it. Another tool that I really like a lot, that I use not necessarily for content creation, but for content remixing or content repurposing, is Jasper. It's a content creation
Mm.
tool for marketers. And they have this integration as well with Surfer SEO, which is an SEO tool. It's really intuitive, really easy to use. It has a really great understanding of like how to optimize your content. Like if you're going to put in a long piece of content, but you want to make bite-sized pieces for social, you want to build a campaign around it, you want to build ads around it. It does a great job of taking your like longer form content and repurposing it into other channels.
Got it. Yeah, that's cool. Have you heard about, I think there are some people that are using AI that can help you comment on other people's LinkedIn post. So, just to kind of build awareness, and then, your ICP, your, target customers will like know about this. So these people always like reply to my post or something. And then you add them on LinkedIn and send them a message, and they will have an, impression on you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Have you heard about this?
we
Yeah.
actually use a tool called HeyReach,
Yeah.
which is a LinkedIn campaign manager. And they do have a functionality which allows you, as you're like you're building out a campaign to connect with a certain type of founder, let's say, or like for us right now, we're actually creating a 3-part webinar series, and we want to invite specifically Series A founders to join because it's a little bit more upmarket what we're trying to do. And it's great because it allows you to build these campaigns that are personalized. There's parameters for some personalization, but also if you send a connection and they haven't responded yet, you can like their post or you can view their profile directly from the tool. I haven't had, that tool, the tool we use doesn't actually comment on their post, but it will engage with a post.
Yeah, because I saw some comments on my own post, and sometime just like after I posted for a few seconds, then they comment on it, and that person I don't even know. So I was like, I think maybe it's a bot doing this. But what they are commenting is like super related to to the content. So they will, I believe they will read the content and then they will find out a best way to engage with the author.
No, I mean, it is like what you're bringing up is such an interesting challenge in go to market right now, because there's these tools that can automate everything, but it's also I think people are becoming more and more savvy that they know the difference between if a human is engaging and an AI tool is engaging with you. So it's a double-edged sword, because you want to be doing outreach at scale. You want to be building your network as quickly as you can. You want to be seeing visibility on platforms like LinkedIn, but you also don't want to erode your brand either from a company or personal standpoint. So you really have to be careful. There is not a silver bullet, in my opinion, on what to do there. And I think, the savviest of people are still able to identify when things are automated or when there's a bot involved.
I agree totally. So I think we've talked about the GTM strategy, how you leverage AI tools. How about, can you share with us how do you implement that for your own company, for C3 series? How do you grow the company from when you just started it from zero to the current stage? And where have you seen more success? What channels are you leveraging? Stuff like that.
So this is an interesting one from because we are the CMOs and CROs of our own company, plus we do that for clients as well. So we always like to, anytime we have a hypothesis that a new tool or a new strategy might work, we actually always test it out on our own business first to see how it's working. I will caveat though, because we're a services business and not a product business, the best, for anyone that's out there who's trying to build a services-based organization, what we found time and time again is that building your network, building your industry presence by way of going to in-person events and networking opportunities, by way of being very active on LinkedIn and sharing your own personal perspective, in addition to having content that's more focused on what your business is saying, is some of our best clients have been people who have just messaged me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, I saw this post that you did. I need help with XYZ. Can we have a chat?" So there is very much a network building and social influence piece of, I think, for Seed Through Series that really has been working. And so in the beginning, we would just go to networking happy hours and meet one-on-one with potential startups that might want to work with us. And that's evolved over time to now that we're actually hosting our own events and bringing in other industry thought leaders for a more, have more ownership and more visibility from the industry at large. That's been really successful. Honestly, webinars have been a huge driver of growth for us, especially because in network can't scale the same way. So those kind of things are working really well for us. And then just recently we started experimenting. I mentioned Clay earlier with a much more sophisticated outbound prospecting motion. along with a social selling motion that's kind of starting to get off the ground, because we do really want to stress test this stuff, and make sure that like the way that we make it work for our business, we want to do that first before we actually invest in our clients' businesses.
Awesome, awesome. So in the beginning, you were like focusing more on like in-person events, and then like building your own personal brand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like post some thought leadership stuff, and then people will actually reaching out to you. So it's more like event referral and inbound. But now you're also like trying some outbound, new outbound channels, to identify like who are the right ones for you to reach out. And you're also like implement that for your customers. That's
Exactly.
amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how have that been working for you in terms of outbound? Like, for example, if you can share how many leads or how many client converted from,
Yeah.
the
So
original channel versus the new one.
well, I can share an example from a client that we worked with. We did this for a client late last year, where they're an AI company that was looking to. They've been around for a while, and they had a pretty established presence, and with enterprise level clients that they were servicing, they kind of figure that piece of their business out. And then they brought us in to help them go down market actually, and figure out like how they can effectively position their offering for SMBs and startups. And I think one of the reasons they did that is because they know that we're so immersed in the startup world as well. And so what we did with them is we kind of we followed the 5-step framework, the Lean go-to-market framework that I mentioned, quite literally, where we started from scratch, and we did research, and we defined their ICP, and we came up with messaging, and then we started to test. They had their own proprietary outbound prospecting and social selling tech stack, so we kind of plugged in this new messaging into their system, and we did a series of A/B testing on messaging, and got to a point where we could pretty predictably get a 10% conversion rate to new customer meetings from this outbound motion. So it was following the framework and doing the experimentation and being really specific on the ICP worked really, really well for this client. And it was like just a good use case to show that outbound prospecting isn't necessarily dead. It's just the way that you do
Yeah.
it needs to change with the
Yeah.
times, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I agree. So I guess what's next? What's next for See Through series? And is there
Yeah.
any exciting plans or like any like new development or new hirings or expansion in the
Yeah.
future?
Yeah. So I alluded to this earlier, but we are really thrilled. This isn't publicly announced yet, but we're bringing on a new team member. Her name is Susie Geary, and she is going to be our operations lead. And she's also has a background in go-to-market engineering. And so she's just kind of been working in the background. She's been super pivotal to helping us set up our own go-to-market system in motion. And she's just been so wonderful to work with. She's kind of a jack of all trades. She knows so many. She's like a HubSpot expert. She knows how to code. She knows how to do all these incredible
Oh,
things that
wow.
we are just like,
Nice.
oh my gosh. And so anyway, and we also know that like a lot of the companies that we work with don't know how to set up these systems either from a technical
Right.
perspective, right? If they have engineers that are really focused on building the product, they're not necessarily going to take the time to figure this go-to-market motion out. So it's in sort of a new, more refined part of our offering that we can enable this sort of GTM system setup and implementation for the founders that we work with. So that's super exciting. The other thing that we're doing for founders that are in a very early stage, let's say they're bootstrapped or they're trying to secure funding, is we're developing a much more robust coursework offering for the Lean go-to-market framework. So I know I explained it in about 5 to 10 minutes on this call, but the idea is that this is going to be a course that marketers or sales folks or even founders that are trying to figure this out very early on in a company's trajectory can go in about 5 to 6 hours, take this course, and come out with like a really strong go-to-market foundation. So that's in the
Oh,
works as well.
cool.
Yeah.
And where can they like access to that?
Yeah, and I will do an announcement on this as well, but we're going to be hosting the coursework in a platform called WAP, which is, have you ever heard of WAP? WHOP?
I have not. Yeah, I should look into it.
It's very cool. It's basically it's a platform that's a startup themselves. It's created by a bunch of Gen Z folks who realize that, especially in that demographic of people, there are so many people who are interested in becoming like online business owners and creators and building a whole career just through digital, right, monetization and content creation and all of
Mm,
that. So it's a very engaged community of people. There's a lot of startups that already are like engaged in the platform in different ways. So we're going to be hosting it there, but we'll be obviously marketing it and promoting it across all of our different marketing platforms. So
great. Look forward to it.
yes.
Yeah, last question for you. Do you have any like suggestions for founders since you work with a lot of early stage founders, and if you know there one piece of advice you can give it to them, what would that be?
Yeah, I think one of the
Or it can be
biggest.
more than one.
No, that's okay. I guess I think one of the biggest things that we see with founders that ends up being really challenging, if it's continues, if it happens a lot over time, is what we see is, especially early on, founders will spend a lot of time chasing down deals with customers that just don't make sense for them, right? And the reason why is because there's this like short term, right?
Mm,
There's this short term wanting to like get revenue in the door now, but then like,
yeah.
it can, we've seen this a lot, where this is like, especially in more of like a seed or series A company where they're trying to show traction and they have a little bit of
Mm,
investment and they're kind of on the hook for things, is like they try to go and, um, yeah, basically chase any deal that comes across their door. And we always encourage founders to think about like their broader goal and the parameters they've set for themselves. And it's really tough to do, but like it's okay to say no to something that would require your engineering team to like not sleep for 2 weeks to make it work for this client, right? And
yeah.
there's a lot of implications that you can have on the product side if you're not super disciplined in the way that you think about your go to market. So we always talk about scaling with precision as a really important tenet of a strong go to market strategy. So I think that that's one thing. I think the other thing is from a marketing standpoint, and when you're messaging in the market, talk to people like they're human beings. We know that we know that you love all of the features and bells and whistles of your product, but people are care so much more about how you're helping them solve a problem than
Yeah.
they do about like every single feature that's in there. So try not to get too caught up in the weeds of the power of your features or your technology. Really try to focus on the value that you're bringing to customers. We see that happen a lot and often advise on how to shift there.
I love that. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Cailin, for your time today. Yeah, I personally learned a lot from you. I really love what you're sharing. I hope I can invite you back next time.
Yes, no, it was a pleasure to be here, Amy. I'm wishing you best of luck, and yeah, I would love to connect again.